Welcome, everyone. I'm Lori Pugh, Vice President of the MPI Academy and a proud graduate of SDSU's Masters in Meeting and Event Management program. And I'm thrilled to be here with 4 amazing professionals who also chose to invest in their development through this program. And today we're going to be talking honestly about what it looks like to pursue a graduate degree as a working event professional, why people choose to do it, and what they gain, and how they make it work. And it isn't always about perfect success stories. It's about the real journeys, challenges, and growth. So today I'm going to go ahead and have each of you introduce yourself. Tell me your name, your current role, and maybe one sentence about how you got into the meeting and events world. And I will start with Deanna.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Lori. Well, as you know, you and I did this together back there. We were cohort 1 for MEM. And right now, for the last 28 years now, I've been the owner of DR Roberts Event Management, full service event planning company here in the US and internationally. And so I was a proud graduate of cohort 1 and also just excited about being a part of this program and continue to support and get more to be involved in SDSU's master's program.
Thank you. And Jennifer?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer. I was in cohort 2, and I actually went through the program during COVID, which was an experience in itself. I am currently the senior event lead at Owens Corning, so I do corporate events. I started my career in nonprofit and transitioned into corporate, and this program really brought a lot of knowledge to me, and it solidified why I'm in this industry.
And Tom?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, depending upon where you're at. I'm Tom Talvey, and I am currently, I have to throw a disclaimer out there and say that my opinions and information shared today represent me and me only, and not that of my employer. I am currently employed by an international pharmaceutical company where I oversee a Congress and meetings program.
Wonderful. And Charlene?
Hi, thank you, Lori. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Charlene Liu. I am currently the Senior Director of Event Technology Experience at EMC Meetings and Events. And I got into meetings and events a long, long time ago when I was an undergraduate student in college by planning events in school that eventually turned into my career. So started, I will say, over 20 years ago. So that's my love started when I was in my formative years. But I'm still here.
Wonderful. And Tom, we'll start the first question for you. So what motivated you to pursue a graduate program, especially at this stage of your life, and why SDSU?
Sure, Lori. So thanks. I'm going to not take offense at this stage in your life, because I know you're not implying that I'm old. But in all honesty, I was a late in life student, and more importantly, I found myself a few years ago looking for a job. And one of the things I noticed, like I said earlier, I work in the pharmaceutical industry. I work with a lot of people who have PhDs, MDs, MBAs. And I noticed that more and more roles, even in the events world, were looking for, at minimum, a bachelor's, but a lot were requesting, master's preferred. So that was part of the impetus, but really my reasoning is I enjoy coaching and helping other people learn. And I have a short-termer, kind of a goal of really getting out there and teaching on a college level. Event management, 30 years ago wasn't as much of a known entity, in the college and university world. And I think bringing, well over 2 decades worth of experience with real world experience to today's students would be a great opportunity. And I feel like a master's is another way that can help me achieve that goal. As far as when I chose, maybe choose SDSU versus some of the other programs out there, throughout everything that I read and everything I had heard about SDSU, I kept hearing about leadership. And this is a leadership journey, and this is really around coaching and building yourself and mastery of self, mastery of concept. A lot of the other programs were tactical, and I have no interest in leading a convention center or running a sports arena. So the fact that this really spoke to a leadership development program more than anything was my number one reason for choosing SDSU.
Very good. And Deanna?
Sure. I agree with Tom as well, but I have a little bit different background. While I was an undergrad at Cal, we basically always had where we were going to do our goals, where we went to college, then went to work for corporate. And then after working for corporate, then you get your graduate degree. But I made a little turn, unlike my other friends, and started a company. And when I started the company, it was not in my background, which my background was economics. I just like what Charlene said, I was doing events during school, so I loved it. And so I felt like I wanted to kind of explore that. And within that exploration, I found that I loved it a lot. And so I started the business as well I still felt like I wanted to definitely get that MBA or a master's. And so I pushed it and I said, okay, I got to work. Business started going, school started, I started missing how I was like, okay, I got to go in here and get this done. But the business was growing and I loved it. And so the school just kept getting more and more in my rearview mirror. One day I happened to go to one of the MPI events, which I think was WEC. And I met an incredible woman at the time. Her name was Misty Helm, but she's now married. So is Misty Helm Chadwick. And she became a really great friend. And so as we were talking, I was telling her how that kept coming in the back of my head about really getting that my master's or MBA. And she goes, wait, guess what? There's a program coming up at San Diego State University. And I was like, okay. I was like, because I was like, okay, I'll hear it. What are we going to do? I'm an event planner. What are we going to have here? Because everyone thinks event planners, all you do is do events. They don't think there's other pieces to it. So as we talked and went through everything, I really started to see that I wanted to do this and learn more. The great part of it is that I got a chance to meet Candy. I also got a chance to meet Carl. And so when I met them, I kept going, you know what? They make me feel like I belong here. And as Tom had mentioned, it was about leadership as well, belonging, and owning a company of my own already. I was in 20 years in that time. I was like, I need something that's also going to help with growth and help me. And so I learned more and more as I talked to everyone, and they just kind of put their arms around you like you were already in the program. And so I was just like, okay, this is what I need now, because I am been so used to just keeping my head going and moving the company. So that's the reason why I kept looking at San Diego State. And it just really was for me. And when I got there and learned another piece too, as you said too, about the tactical part, that wasn't what I was looking for in regards to this. But I did run into a few that would say, oh, what do you have? Do you have a CMP? Do you have this? Do you have that? Right. And so being an independent, we were just like, well, I have a degree, and this should work. And so I was during my CMM when also this was taking place. So I was like, this would be another step of growth for me to have it. And also just to show that to myself, most importantly, that I can do this and that I'm going to use this opportunity to learn and continue to grow. And San Diego State was it for me, because they really were great. They put their arms out and I felt welcomed.
That's awesome. And I felt the exact same way. Once I did with the little info session, I thought, well, I don't think I've officially signed up, but I'm pretty sure I'm in the program. So I agree. Jennifer, this next question will be for you. How do you balance, or how did you balance grad school with work and personal responsibilities, and any helpful strategies or lessons that you learned?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I went through the program during COVID. So that was obviously an unprecedented time for everybody. And the meetings industry obviously was very disrupted during that. And so trying to balance what was happening at work and making those adjustments to work, then while also going through the program, but also balancing it with family and friends for what we were able to do during COVID. And so time management was a huge piece for me to be able to manage everything. Every week when we got our assignments, I took 2 hours each day to kind of just work on those assignments to ensure that by the end of the week, for the most part, I had those assignments done, which allowed me then on the weekend to kind of just really review, kind of look at everything before I had to submit my work for the week. But it also then freed me up then to maintain that kind of work life, family, school balance on the weekend so that I wasn't consumed by school. So really kind of mapping out the week, each week of what I needed to get done, how much time. And, some weeks it was, maybe 2 hours one night, 3 hours another night, but it was really managing my time across the week so that when the weekend came and assignments were due on Sunday, I wasn't scrambling to get all this work done at the last minute. So time management, also asking for help when you needed it, whether it was at work, at home, and having really a good support system. Before I entered the program, I had a conversation with not only my husband, but my kids, because I had 2 small kids at home. And this was before we knew COVID was coming, but understanding that I was going to have some really dedicated time to get work done, and that meant mom wasn't going to always be available for playtime or to do certain things because I had to focus on schoolwork to get it done. So really having a good support system at home and at work is important.
Oh, absolutely. Tom, what are your thoughts on that as well?
I echo what Jennifer said in terms of time, right? This is not something that you can just haphazardly enter into. Similarly, I allocate time each week. So, when I look at the week ahead and the assignments, and then I look at my own personal schedule, my work commitments, and say, all right, Tuesday night, I think I'm going to have 2 hours available because Wednesday I have no time, but then Thursday, I think I can allocate 3 hours. It just becomes that it's like anything else. I almost have to think of it as a part-time job. I have to show up. So if I say I'm going to log on Wednesday night to do schoolwork at 7:00, I have to honor that commitment to myself, to the program. A lot of the program is dependent. There's things like group chats and discussion boards and things like that. So I also want to be fair to the people in my cohort and know that if they're waiting for me to contribute and I wait until Sunday afternoon, I'm doing them a disservice. So I treat this the same way I would with any other commitment, and that's I allocate the time, but it's on a week by week. We're all planners by nature, right? This industry creates planners, and I travel a lot, so I'll look at weeks where I say, hey, I'm going to have 6 hours on a plane. That's a great time that I know I can read, X amount of pages of a book, or I can, work on a presentation or work on a paper, things like that. But it is all about time management and being prepared for the unexpected when you build those time periods into the day.
Absolutely. For me, I always tried to do about 30 minutes to an hour a day, maybe 30 minutes over my lunch break. And then, while I'm having my coffee, instead of scrolling TikTok or Facebook, I would say, okay, let me get some of this reading done. And my daughter plays competitive volleyball. So when she had twice a week, 90-minute practices, I would just study. So you really just make it fit wherever you have an opportunity to do so. So the next question I have, we'll start with Charlene. So what was your favorite class or topic area, and why did it stand out to you?
So this was a very interesting question because I felt like I had to pick one out of my many favorites, but the one that definitely stood out to me was data-driven decision-making. It was so relevant at the time, right? Because this was post-pandemic, and Jennifer, I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to have your on-campus weeks. I was in cohort 3, so we were the first ones to come back to on-site, and we had such a different experience of what was coming out, right? All of the data was coming out of the pandemic, what was going on in meetings and events. So how do we take all that data and determine strategy from it? And really that class showed me how to mine data effectively and determine what was relevant to a particular question that I or my stakeholders needed to ask. So it was so incredibly relevant for that time. And I learned so much from it. I just stood out. I mean, all of the other classes were great. I won't bog down on directed readings particularly, but data-driven decision-making for sure, my favorite.
Very good. And Jennifer, how about you?
So I swear Charlene and I did not talk before this, but my class was also the data-driven decision-making class. Like Charlene said, all the classes were great, but that one stood out to me because it gave me the opportunity to really learn how to leverage data when presenting to leaders and C-suite on how data are facts. It tells the story. It's not intuition. It's not, this is how I feel. It's concrete information and evidence of why we're moving in the direction or not moving in the direction for an event or for whatever it might be. So it really helped me build that confidence and be able to speak the language at the table per se with those leaders. And again, going through COVID, there was so much information coming at us in the midst of COVID of, what we can do, can't do, what, certain states were doing, other states. So that really, that gathering of that data and, as Charlene mentioned, mining it and being able to present that out really benefited me. And even to this day has benefited me in other ways of being able to present that information in a very factual way.
Absolutely. So I know Dana and I, we did have our first on-campus week, but we did not have the full graduation experience because at the end we were going through COVID. So this next question is going to be for Tom and Charlene. How did the on-campus weeks in San Diego enhance your experience? Tom, we'll start with you.
Sure. The on-campus week was probably the highlight of 2024 for me. And I know that sounds hokey. I always say I'm an ambivert. For people that don't know what an ambivert is, it's an extroverted introvert. And the thought of flying to San Diego and walking into a room full of 20 some odd strangers and putting myself out there was nerve-wracking and uncomfortable. And within minutes, unfortunately, I was coming from a program, so I got there a few hours late, which was even worse. Everybody else had breakfast, and I walked in 3 hours into the session, and as soon as I sat down, somebody at the table wrote a little note and just slid it across the table just to kind of get me up to speed of what was going on and who he was. And I was appreciative of that. And over the course of the next 5 days, we formed such a tight relationship. I'll watch a show like Big Brother, and I'm like, how do these people really love each other after 3 days? Like, I call BS on that. And I realized, when you're all in that same situation with the same thoughts, the same emotions, the same feelings, you build those tight connections. So it really just helped me create an allegiance to the cohort. It helped me get invested in the program to really just, something as simple as seeing the campus. My undergrad was a complete online program, so I never had that connection to the same people or to the physical surroundings. And now, I can see the campus and I can see the bell tower. I can see all of the things that really just complete the process. And I don't think without the on-campus week, it would have been. The program is great, and I love the fact that I'm with the same 20 some odd people from day one to the very end. But I think that on-campus week just really cemented, and doing it so early in the program just set us up for love and support of each other over the next, in our case, 20 months to go from, when on-campus week happened.
Absolutely. How about you, Charlene?
I mean, there's not much of that I can't echo from what Tom said. I could be a little bit more truthful by saying he said, being in the same situation together. And in my head, I'm like, oh, we all get to commiserate together about being back in school, right? So I think just that helps tie all of us in. Oh my gosh, we've had, 10-hour, 12, 14-hour event days. And now we have to, again, I'm not pinging at directed readings, but reading Steve Jobs' biography, right? So we're going through the same experience together and understanding, by the way, all of the instances and exceptions of why someone had to be out for a week or a few days. I mean, this program is so targeted to the meeting and event management professionals that you can't find that sense of community anywhere else in a graduate program setting. So not only are we going through this experience together of going through a cohort, but at the same time, I could still talk to my cohort members about what's happening on my daily job, which without having to educate someone about specifically what I do outside of planning parties, they completely understand if I had vendor supplier issues or, if somebody didn't label a food item correctly, right? We can commiserate on all levels, but engage with each other to uplift and support in different ways. So it was a sense of community, right? The on-campus weeks that I truly, those were, like Tom said, the highlight of his years. Those were my 2 on-campus weeks were the highlights of the entire program as well.
Very, very good point. So the next question is, what helped you stay connected in an online format where there are moments when you felt especially supported or isolated? Charlene, I'll start actually with you again on that question.
So I'll be short. I mean, we had group chats within the entire cohort, and then we also, our MEM cohort and the HTM cohort were going at the same time. So we would separate ourselves as well. But I think generally, the program itself enables you to stay engaged through the different virtual meetings that are scheduled. And then we also separated out ourselves. There's so much interaction between all of the different cohort members and the instructors that you really don't feel isolated. And like I said, even if you are gone for a week or so, there's a complete understanding of, they're in an event week. So it was very supportive. I truly didn't feel isolated. I don't know if anybody else had that feeling, but it's hard not to when you're constantly being asked for status updates, and then you have virtual meetings, and then, group projects to work on. So that's how I felt, and my takeaway from it.
Absolutely. Deanna?
Well, we had a little bit of a different situation because we started off being able to see each other within COVID hit, or whatever. They didn't know what it was called at that time. And so at that time, our support to keep us together, for we wouldn't feel isolated, was of course our mentors and our coaches, and then also to just in general us communicating like you guys did as well over our texts that we had. We were always making sure that we had a chance to jump on a call, but then it got a little worse for us where we started to feel a little bit more, at least I should say for myself, because I actually did get COVID during that time. And also too, we were, the world was kind of doing some crazy things. We ended up having some racial unrest. We had quite a few things happening at that time. So everyone had their feelings and what they were doing and with their beliefs. And really, we tried to keep ourselves focused, and San Diego State did a great job. Everyone did a great job. As I mentioned before, mentors, coaches, just teachers to keep us focused. But we also had to come together, and we did as a group, as our cohort. But then individuals found that they needed extra additional support, and we kind of gravitated to each other that way. Example is there was 5 other individual ladies that we came together. We called ourselves the Black Girl Magic. And so we had to come together to make sure that we were good every morning or afternoon with texts. We also had our study groups. We also had what we called our happy hours with iced tea. No, we did have a couple drinks here and there, but we did do that. And then we also, too, making sure that we kept on with studying, because that is what this program was about. No matter what the world was doing or how it was turning upside down, we had to keep it moving because we had graduation at the end and we were almost there. And so for us, we would always say, okay, make sure we get this done. Once we get this done, we can watch our favorite show. And at that time, our show was Lovecraft County. And we wanted to make sure every Sunday we had to turn our paper in before the deadline. Then we can watch it. So those are our fun things, on top of the fact that we had support from all our classmates that were in different parts of the country, because we wanted to make sure everybody was good. But we also had the support from the staff from San Diego State. I have to shout out, of course, again, Kim, because Kim doesn't get a lot of love out there, and she always does so much for us along with Candy. But Terry too as well. She was a coach, and then Carl would make sure we were good. Anne Marie was there. It was all of them together. We knew their names. We probably bugged them to death, but they were so supportive. And also my other group too, which was my Black Girl Magic. So that's how we stayed connected till we walked across that virtual stage. So,
I mean, you're certainly not a number in this program. We were just saying that you really get to know each other, and it was a very difficult time, to your point, Deanna. And I'd have to say, yes, the curriculum is amazing in this program, but it's also the people that you meet that make it so amazing. So I echo all your comments there. The next question is, how did you weigh the cost of the program and what made it worth it in the end, both financially, professionally, or personally? Deanna, I'll start off that one with you.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, when I came in, I had already been in business for over 20 some odd years before at that time. And so for me, and just the way that I operate and being an economist at trade prior to this, we always look at things a little differently. So I knew that this was going to be a very good business investment for me because it was going to help me develop so that I was better for my team and also better for clients so that we can give them what they deserve. And so I know a lot of times people will look and say, okay, I don't know if this will be something that I can afford, but really you can afford it. I felt like this was very priceless for us because not only was I getting leadership skills, I was learning about myself through the writings. One of my favorite courses was marketing. And so I learned more about that because we needed that during this time. I just felt like it was important that I went ahead and invested this, and I was going to make sure I found it. I will say this, another shout, Candy, she made sure she would give you information about how you can find some scholarships, some funding. You get support from them all the way through. They don't want you just to come into the program and then leave you. And they know that financial things hit, especially with us, it hit during pandemic. There was no event. So it was really important for me to just stay focused and keep my eye on the prize. And that's how I looked at it, because towards the end of this, that capstone, I will be honest with you, was what really turned our business around. We reimagined this company because there was no events going on. And I reimagined it through the capstone of where I could do more virtual because we'd already had it. And there was a book that we read, and I don't know if you guys read this one too, called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And that is one of my favorite books. And I still quote from it today. I'm sure my staff is really tired of it, but that we took what was good in our company, and I learned that through this process, to great. And that to us helped us keep going. And we worked all the way through pandemic, sick and all, still kept going. And that same process we put in place is working till today. So that is why that financial, making that financial piece was very important for me. And I'll say it's priceless.
Absolutely. Charlene?
Well, so really the tie with MPI made this program really, really special. And I'll just be short with it. I think that the instructors that were teaching some of the classes are really high hitters in our industry. It's also about the exposure to them, right? Like this connection with Lori Pugh, right? The VP of MPI Academy and another hard hitter in our industry. I mean, just the connections that you can get from this program were well worth it. And like Deanna said, you know, Candy and Kim and the team, they provide you a lot of resources so you don't feel like the burden is solely on yourself. It is all on you to, you know, look at it financially and see what you can do. But they don't just throw you out there. They're there to help, and it does feel like a family. So well worth it just because of the exposure, the connections that you make, and also it's just another family that you get to add on to your existing networks.
Absolutely. I know for me, I was able to use some military benefits, so that was helpful. And then some, you know, partial tuition reimbursement was huge for me. At the time, as a single parent going into this program, when I was considering it, I'm thinking, how am I going to make this work? So it was creative in terms of all the different things to get me to that point where I felt, okay, I think it's manageable costs. And I could tell you, while I was at MPI, when I started the program, I did left for a while because it was hard for me to, and I think you could probably agree with this, making a jump from a manager level to then director to VP, it gets harder the higher up you go. And it had taken me, I mean, I'd spent a large amount of time being at manager level. After the program, I did get an offer somewhere else as a director. And I don't think that I would have gotten that level of director without a master's, to be honest. It just made me stand out more from the resumes. And then an incredible opportunity to come back to MPI as a VP. All of this within a 5-year period. And I have to say, I give a lot of credit to the master's program for that. So I definitely think that the investment was certainly worth it.
That happened to me too during my time out while in school. I jumped to a director position while I was doing the cohort. So it was the opportunity was already ripe. It was great.
There you go. See, that's a perfect example there. So the next question is, what personal growth have you experienced as a result of the program beyond academics or that career development? And Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I think this was alluded to early on in the conversation. There is a lot of self-reflection and self-growth throughout this program. Me personally, prior to the program, I wasn't one to really sit back and kind of reflect on myself, professionally or personally. But this program really, I don't want to say forced me to, but I really had to look inside myself and decide, what are my goals professionally, personally, who do I want to be, as a mom, as a wife, as a leader within my role at my job. So it really pushed me to self-reflect and really set some goals. Even to this day, after the program, I'm more self-reflective on everything that I do. And I don't think I would have gotten to that point without this program. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone, but it was well worth it.
Absolutely. Deanna, how about you?
I definitely agree with you, Jennifer. And as I look back at the program and on a personal level, I really went going through all that we did with the changing, the way that getting sick, still trying to make it go. Just now looking back at really the network and things I've grown, have acquired from this program, I really feel like I am stronger than ever. I felt like I have a different type of power that will help me move through any difficult time. Because if we could get through a pandemic, also being sick, not sure we're going to have events, and then turn around and start and open up and all these things and still can smile and still can learn from it, then I felt like I've grown. I did learn a lot from the readings, even though I always tease and talk about how I'm not an iPhone person and that whole big Steve Jobs things was just a lot. But I enjoyed the book. I did learn some things from that because I catch other people and other clients and just friends who kind of have a different thought process. And I go, oh, that might have been in that book. Oh, that might be this. So I continue to see that there's growth. And I also feel too so strong about it that I want to share with others. So mentoring, also coaching, and just making sure that everyone gets the same type of personal experience through this program, because it's important. So if you take out all the academics, it takes you, the person, to really go in there and make things happen. You can't just sit there, take in information and think that everybody's going to change for you or life's going to change for you. You have to put in the work. And that's what I learned. When stuff gets tough, you have to put in the work, which I use through everything, even workout. So it's just a little bit of everything. So that's the personal growth I received in addition to with this program.
Absolutely. And this final question, as we're wrapping up, I'm going to turn it over to each of you. But what advice would you give someone considering this panel? And Tom will, this program, what would you say, Tom, is the advice that you would give?
So I think the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody that's considering this is to make sure you have an advocate. The program actually aligns you with a coach and with a mentor, and they're both great resources. But it's whether it's that dear friend, family member, that one person that's always going to just push you a little bit, the person that when you're not feeling it, who's in your corner cheering for you, having that advocate, as great as the program is, as great as all the resources are, as great as the experience with the cohort is, that one person who's not involved, but who's pushing you from behind always, is the key to success.
Very good. Jennifer?
Charlene alluded to this earlier. There are definitely some big hitters from the industry that are involved in this program, whether they're teaching or coaching, or just part of the program. And I would say leveraging their knowledge, their expertise, and the network that they can provide to you while you're in the program, but beyond the program. Even within my cohort there, I still keep in contact with several people in my cohort, whether it's through LinkedIn, I've met up with people for a brunch, that kind of thing. So really leveraging the network that you are going to develop in this program will benefit you throughout the program and beyond.
Deanna?
Yes, I would, my advice would be that they need to just do it. Go for it. Don't wait, for the perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time. this particular program is not just a degree, it's transformational. And I will, definitely stand on that. I really think that no matter what stage you are in your career, even how old you are, you still should just go for it. Because just like I've been told all my life, goals and dreams don't have expiration dates. And I know that Sarah Lee Ralph said this recently too, but they do not have an expiration date. So if you have a goal or dream that you want to go ahead and continue education, you want to be able to have better leadership or learn, or just get around people who have like minds with incredible speakers, as was mentioned before, the time is now. It's a perfect time for it. And go ahead and go for it. And then give your all. And that's all I say. You must give your all, and you must be present. And you'll have an experience like no other.
Oh, that was good. Charlene, that's a hard one to follow.
I feel like I shouldn't have gone last. So mine would be to be a complete sponge, like change your whole perspective about anything. Yes, bring your experience and skill set to the program, but be completely open to what your fellow cohort members are telling you as their experiences are, what your instructors, what your mentors, your coaches, anybody that you interact with during this program you will be able to take away something that will impact you later in life. And I think that that's one of the biggest life experiences that I can have is almost every single person I encountered has changed me in a little bit different way for the better. So being a sponge and not being, like this is my experience and how I'm going to move forward. I think we're all in it for learning. And if we're all in it together, I mean, it will be an experience that you can't forget.
Yeah. Well, you all said it so well. So thank you so much. And thank you for being so open about it and some really authentic conversations. And if today's discussion sparked curiosity for those of you who are watching, I encourage you to explore the program or reach out to one of us. This is a community that truly supports one another, and we certainly will help coach you and guide you along the way. And we hope you join this journey and family of SDSU. So thank you so much for being here.